Hello everyone, back tuning into today's video. We're doing JMA Friday today. As always on a Friday, going to have a detailed look at the weather for the next month. So it's going to take us more or less through the first month of the autumn, through September. Isn't the official forecast from GasWeather for September. That will be coming up later on this afternoon on the month-ahead forecast page. So it's just a heads up of what the CFSV2 and Japanese models are predicting for the coming month. Before I get on with that, just to say about the ads, there's links to articles on all of the pages. Have a browse widgets and click through the links. If there's any articles that you're interested in, you'll be helping us to pay for our website. Thanks very much for doing that. This video ads on most pages say open the content when you watch it, close back up again. It does all help to pay for gasweatherbiz.com. We'll start off with the JMA and then we'll move on to the CFSV2. So I'm going to deal with the 500 millimeter height anomalies first of all from the North Pole down. So this is the North Pole just here. Mid-latitudes of the Northern Hemisphere are around here, and the British Isles is just here. 500 millibars, 80,000 feet, is an area in the atmosphere where high pressure, low pressure being moved around by a jet stream running above. On these charts, blue is extrapolating to below average heights, which is low pressure, and red, yellow, orange, bright colours extrapolates to above average heights, 500 millibars, 80,000 feet, which is high pressure. So the coming week will take us from the 2nd through to 9th of September, and we find we've got an area below average heights out to the west of the UK with a ridge down to the south and to the east of us. That looks quite unsettled, but I think this ridge will keep southern parts particularly more settled. The jet stream is going something a bit like that. So we are on the mild side of the jet. It's going to be a fairly warm week coming up, particularly in the south next week. I think there will be a lot of dry weather in the south through next week. Always a little bit more unsettled and changeable up in the north and the west of the country, but the main thing I would think is that temperatures will be quite warm because the air is coming up from a south, possibly even southwesterly type direction for the coming week. Week 2 looks like this, very similar. Actually, this one is taking us from the 9th through to the 16th of September. Again, trough of low pressure in the Atlantic. A ridge is up to the northeast and to the south of us as well. And the jet stream, again, is doing something like that. So we're still pulling in quite warm air from the south. It still looks changeable to the north and to the west of the country. It's drier to the south and the southeast. And as a fairly warm, again with the jet stream placing us on the mild side of the jet. And then we go through to weeks 3 and weeks 4, which takes us from the 16th through to the 30th of September, and we find above average heights building strongly then. So if anything, going into second half of September, it is settling down here, and the jet stream is probably still going to the north of us, rather like that. So it looks like we're going to have a warm September, if this is right. We're looking at a lot of warm weather, going to be a delayed autumn, and a lot of warm weather coming up in September. And after a fairly unsettled first half, the trend here is to turn it more settled, if anything, into the second half of the month. So that's how the Northern Hemisphere view is looking. What about the mid-latitude and tropical view? So this chart, again, is showing the 500 millimeter heights for the first week, the 2nd through 9th of September. British Isles in the far top right-hand corner of the chart, as you're looking at it on this chart, a recap of what we've got coming up through the coming week. We've got high pressure to the south, low pressure to the north and west, and the jet stream coming through like that. And we are placed onto the mild side of the jet, particularly to the south and the east. So temperatures are looking warm through the coming week. We've got above average temperature anomalies there, quite significantly so actually. You don't often see these charts going into the yellow and orange colours with these anomalies. JMA is always one of the more conservative models, so there's the temperature scale down there. I'm around 1 to 2 degrees above average, which is quite high, really, quite hot for the coming week from this particular model. Precipitation, however, does look wetter than average. I'm not sure about that. I don't think it's going to be as wet as this is suggesting. It goes for above average rainfall, and I suppose it could be in the far north and west of the country, but I think actually we're likely to have fairly dry conditions. We've got heavy rain coming up tomorrow, but once that's out of the way, I think there'll be a lot of dry weather, especially for England and Wales. So I think that's a bit over the top with precipitation, but temperatures are looking warm in the week ahead. We go through to week 2, which is the 9th through to 16th of September, and that one is again showing a ridge down to the south and a trough to the northwest, jet stream coming through the country like that. How are the temperatures looking to the middle part of September? Again, warmer than average. Not quite as big an anomaly as you see for the first week period, but nevertheless we're still placed on warm side of the jet stream, so temperatures are still coming out generally mild. Look how warm it is as well across virtually the whole of Europe. Quite unusual there to see virtually the whole of Europe covered by above average temperatures on these charts. Precipitation is getting better, so still a bit wetter than average for the far northwest. Elsewhere actually it's going a bit drier than average. That looks a nice week. That's the middle part of September. And then we go through the second half of the month, weeks 3 and 4. This is the 16th through to 30th of September. High pressure is building up over the top of the country for that one. Temperature anomalies are still coming out above average. Again, not as big an anomaly as we had for the first week, but still warmer than average temperature anomalies for weeks 3 and 4. And precipitation generally looking a bit drier than average as well. So it does look pretty good for September if you want warm, dry conditions. These charts do look quite good actually. I think we'll be seeing plenty of fine weather coming up, and as a delayed start to the autumn, most probably. So that's how the JMA is looking. What about the CFS V2? We'll have a look at 500 millibar height anomalies again from the CFS, and then we'll have a look at corresponding temperature and precipitation anomalies. These are broken down into weekly periods again. So the first weekly period will take us from the 2nd through to the 8th of September. Again, same idea, red extrapolates to above average heights, which is high pressure, blue and green to below average heights, which is low pressure. So the model is placing a ridge to the south of the country and to the east of the country as well, with a trough out in the Atlantic, and the jet stream is doing something like that. Very, very similar to what the JMA is doing for the coming week, actually. A lot of dry weather in the south, close to this ridge, always a bit more unsettled up in the north and the west. And temperatures will be warm because we're placed on the mild side of the jet stream. We go through to week 2, which is the 9th through to 15th of September, and a wall of high pressure, a wall of above average heights is developing to the east of the country, this trough of low pressure being blocked out to the west, and again the jet stream and the flow is going like that. So it's going to be warm again through that week because we're pulling up the air from the south. This is looking like, but potentially, and we'll see whether I agree with this in weekend broadcast, but in the month-end broadcast, I should say, September. But potentially, this is looking like a very warm signal for September. We go through to week 3, which is the 16th through 22nd of September. And again, we've got above average heights close to the country. There it is. Around the UK and through many central parts of Europe as well. The jet stream still doing something like that, so we're still placed on the warm side of the jet through to the middle part of September. And then week 4, which takes us from the 23rd through the 29th of September. Again, we've still got that ridge to the east of the country. Look, it's not going anywhere fast. The low pressure is out to the west, and again the jet stream's going like that and the flow going like that. So we are again looking at a notably dry September if this. So let's have a look at those all-important temperatures, and the temperature anomaly for week 1, which is the 2nd through to 8th of September, comes out significantly warmer than average in those red colours there, deep red colours. So that's around 2.5 degrees above average with the temperatures through the coming week. Week 2 also looking significantly warmer than average, again 2.5 degrees perhaps above average there from the 9th to 15th of September. Week 3, which is the 16th through 22nd of September, that one also coming out significantly warmer than average by about a degree, maybe a bit more above average. And week 4 rounds it all off. This takes us to the end of the month. This is 23rd through 29th of September, and look at that. We've got the red colours through the British Isles, most of Europe as well, so significantly warmer than average temperatures from beginning to end for this September. Model could be going over top with this signal, but it is a strong signal. It's across both of the models, really. And precipitation for the coming week, that one looks a bit wetter than average to the north and west, near normal elsewhere. I think, again, that's a bit over the top, really, for the coming week for the precipitation. Going to be a lot of dry weather through the course of next week. Week 2, which is the 9th through to 15th of September, drier than average in the south, nearer normal elsewhere. Week 3, the signal is weakening now, as it always does, but 16th, 22nd of September, that one shows near normal to slightly drier than average, I think, across the country. And then week 4, 23rd through to 29th of September, right to the end of the month, that one near normal, once again with precipitation, maybe a bit wetter than average in the north and the west. Now, we've got cross-model agreement here from both of these models on the broad pattern for September, and it's looking warm. That's the main thing. It's looking like warm September temperatures. Could be a degree, maybe more, a couple of degrees above average, if this is right. A delayed onset of autumn, a continuation through summer. Precipitation, a little bit harder to judge, but there's a lot of anti-cyclonic influences there, so I would have thought, particularly for the south and the east, it's looking fairly dry. Of course, always a little bit more unsettled to the north and to the west. So that's how the JMA and CFSV2 are looking for September. I'll be doing the September month-ahead forecast in a little while, but it'll be on the month-ahead forecast page, and we'll see whether I agree with these models. Tomorrow, it's a week-ahead forecast, and we'll have Cannon Sip Saturday, so come back for that. But that's all for now.